Hello. And the idea could be this, that we like to lie to ourselves. We like to believe that lies somehow constitute the truth even when they don't. And I know that this is an idea that may rub you the wrong way, because you will say to yourself, well, I believe in the truth and I've always lived a truthful life. But think about it. Is that really so? Or maybe we compromise part of ourselves with what we know to be the truth, and we live within that compromise or no man's land. And that in itself would be a form of deception, don't you think so? A form of self-deception. The only thing is that we are comfortable with it, not because we have acquiesced ourselves to this whole idea of living with bad or something that is not truthful from our sense of what is truthful at least. But there's something about us that is able to reject this whole idea. And we can always seek compromises, justifications to delegitimize why we do the things we do. And that is the real danger in my view, because what happens if basically what you believe to be important or what you believe to be momentous is not perceived by some people in the same way that you would like them to perceive your actions to be? I mean, think about it. I mean, that's where all the friction comes in. If you think about the whole idea of let's say, why is it that the YOG, the Youth Olympic Games, was something that basically suffers from a schizophrenia, a split personality? Because on one side you have people saying that this is a great triumph because it showcases Singapore. But on the other side of the spectrum, you get people who consider it a failure, a Byzantine failure, a symbol of wastage, of basically Babylonian wastage on a scale bordering on God knows what. It has to be big, bigger than a continent at least. Why the duality? Why? And it's not an easy question to understand. How is it that you can get the mainstream press saying A, and then you could get the internet saying A minus B? And it would appear that both of them have a détente or tacit agreement that we're going to do it this way, and bloggers have decided to say, well, we're going to do it this way. So what you have essentially is the perfect conditions of what you call classical conflict. The idea itself is not new, and it predates Sun Tzu Art of War. The idea actually goes all the way back to an Indian story that was documented by the ancient philosopher Chandrasekhar. And according to him, there were two Indian farmers, and they shared this narrow strip of land. It was a sliver of land, just a sliver of land. And one brother basically decided to take 1 inch off the other side, and this was preceded by the brother taking off 1 inch on his side, and this went on till that sliver of land became a razor blade. And the moral of the story is that we can fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, and we would have still enough reserves to continue fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, because you have what you call a perpetual motion system. You have positive and you have negative. You have these trench lines established between the mainstream press and what today we refer to as the virtual community. And in between you have that grey mass that we call the no man's land. What resides in the no man's land? And this was where I came up with the idea of the game, the brotherhood. Because the brotherhood as an idea, as a concept, or even as a philosophy, is an idea that can only be born, can only as an idea germinate and grow if it's planted in that no man's land where you have on one side right and then you have wrong, but never perfect agreement. In mathematical terms, we can describe it as a state of perpetual flux, where you have, if I may use an analogy, it's something a bit like cannonballs being fired at each other and they're meeting each other in space and exploding as they impact. And you have that resistance that creates this big burst of energy. And that's one reason why when we look at internet parlance, it is so vocal, because that's actually a condition that comes from their state of being powerless. People feel frustrated. They feel frustrated because they don't have a voice, and or they feel that the narrative has been bracketed, and that means there are missing links that they can't seem to figure out, or they think they know but they are not sure. But whatever it is, there's always this niggling sensation at the back of their head that tells them that something may be amiss. And that creates a lot of skepticism. The question is, what happens when the online culture of being skeptical, cynical, and even being downright dismissive, what happens if it makes that leap and it manages to somehow win over that other narrative? That narrative that says that they are always right. Will that happen? I mean, can that happen as an idea or as a concept? You see, I don't know, and I don't believe that anybody would know. But this merger between the way in which we absorb energy and the way in which we actually funnel our energy in order to find out what is right or wrong, or is the truth, or is just a pack of lies. This whole idea is something that we have to be really conscious of. We have to be conscious of it not only in the sense that we see it as a way for us to see the world with clarity, but we have to be conscious of the fact that there will always be two sides to our consciousness. The side that tells us that this may not be true, and the side that tells us that, well, I have the right to tell you it's not true if I believe that it's not true. But what occupies in between those these separate islands? What occupies that sliver of land? Something to consider. You see, I know what occupies that land, that sliver of thought.